Hello all, welcome back to the session. In the previous video, we would have watched about the basics of object-oriented programming concepts and an overview about inheritance. Now, we'll learn more about the various types of inheritance, that is single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical and hybrid inheritance. Let's start with the simplest form of single inheritance, that is single inheritance. In single inheritance, exactly one derived class inherits from one base class. For example, suppose we have class animal with the function eat. Now we define class dog, okay, of public animal. Now we define class dog, public animal here, and inside the dog we define another function called bark. Okay, this means the dog is a derived class, animal is a base class, and public is the inheritance access specifier. Now, if we create an object dog, that object calls both eat as well as bark. The important point is that eat was defined in animal and not in dog. However, because dog inherits from animal, dog can use the inherited function. The output will therefore be something like I can eat, I can bark. This demonstrates the basic purpose of inheritance. We define common functionality once and reuse it in the derived class. Next comes the multi-level inheritance. Here, a derived class itself becomes a base class from another class. Consider the following chain: animal, mammal, and dog. So here, animal is the first level, mammal inherits from animal, so mammal is the second level, and dog inherits from mammal, making the dog the third level. Therefore, a dog object can access members from both mammal and animal in addition to its own members. For example, animal can provide an eat function, mammal can provide a breathe function, and a dog can provide a bark function. Now we create dog D. Okay, we can call eat, breathe, and bark. The dog object therefore has access to the functionalities originating from all levels of inheritance chain. This is called multi-level inheritance. One important characteristic is that the inheritance relationship is transitive through the chain. In a three-level hierarchy, the child inherits the accessible members of its immediate parent, and through that parent the accessible members of the higher level base class. So next comes the multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance is different from single and multi-level inheritance. Here, a single derived class inherits from more than one base class. For example, consider two classes, engine and radio. Consider two classes, one is engine and the other one is radio class. Okay, engine has a function called start, the radio has a function called play. Now we define a class car, public engine, public radio. This means the car inherits from both engine and radio. We can then define drive function. Okay, we are now defining the drive function here, okay, inside the car. Now, when we create car object, we can call start, we can call play, and also we can call drive. So we can call start from the engine, we can call play from radio, and we can call drive from car class. So one object can access functionalities from multiple parent classes. This is powerful, but it also introduces the additional complexity. One important issue is the order of construction. If the declaration is class C, public A, public B, then A is constructed first, followed by B, and finally C. The output would therefore be A, B, and then C. The construction order is determined by the order in which the base class are declared in the inheritance list. The destruction order is exactly the reverse. So when the object is destroyed, the derived class destructor executes first, followed by the base class destructor in the reverse order. So first C, B, and then A. This ensures that cleanup occurs in reverse sequence of construction. So the ambiguity in multiple inheritance is that the multiple inheritance can this ambiguity is the important problem here. Suppose we have two classes, one is printer, okay, and the other one is scanner. Both classes contains a function called print. Printer class contains function called print. The scanner class also contains the function called print. If we write combo C and C calls the function print, the compiler has a problem. Which print function should I call? The one belonging to the printer or the one belonging to scanner? Because both are actually valid, the compiler cannot choose automatically. Therefore, it produces an ambiguous member access member. So we can solve this problem using scope resolution operator. For example, see this scope resolution operator. Now when this particular thing means to call the print version, whereas this calling calls the scanner version. So the scope operator allows us to explicitly specify which base class member we want. This is an important issue to remember whenever multiple inheritance is used. Next comes the hierarchical and hybrid. First we'll start with the hierarchical inheritance. Here we have one base class and multiple derived classes. For example, animal can be the base class. From animal we can derive dog, cat, and bird. All three classes are independent siblings. Dog does not inherit from cat, cat does not inherit from bird. Instead, all three inherit separately from the same base class called animal. So, animal provides some common functions like eat and sleep. The dog can add functions like bark and fetch. Cat can add meow and purr, and bird can add fly and grip. All this or the functions independent for the each classes. This is useful when several types shares common characteristics but also have their own specific behaviors. So let's take an animal example more concretely. Suppose the animal class contains the name and age. It also contains functions such as eat, sleep, and breathe. Now we derive dog from animal. Now we derive dog from animal. The dog automatically gets access to the inherited members and additionally defines some functions like bark and fetch. Whereas cat, when cat is derived, it adds some functions. Similarly, for the birds also. So the main function when we create object D for the dog class, we can assign the name Rex and the age to be 3, and then we can call eat, breathe, and bark functions and fetch functions. Now, when we create a cat object called C, this assigns the name Whiskers and assigns the age as 2, and it called its inheritance and own functions. The important observation is that both dog and cat reuse the functionality provided by animal without redefining it. The main advantage of hierarchical inheritance is the main advantage of hierarchical inheritance. It avoids duplication and allows the program structure to represent the real world relationships clearly. Here is one such example for the shape hierarchy. Suppose the shape is a base class, it contains protected variable called area. It also provides some common functions like display area and show info. Now we derive three classes. One is circle, rectangle, and next one is triangle. All three classes inherit shape. However, each class calculates its area differently. For circle, the formula is different. For rectangle, the formula is different. And for triangle also, the formula is different. The common functionality displaying the area and showing functions is provided by the shape. The specific calculation is provided by each derived classes. This example clearly demonstrates what should be the shared in base class and what should remain specific to each derived classes. There are some important design practices to remember. First, design the base class carefully. The base class should contain features that are genuinely common to all derived classes. Second, when polymorphism is involved, the base class should generally have virtual destructor. Third, uh, can be used when derived classes need direct access to shared state while we still want to prevent ordinary outside access. These practices help make inheritance hierarchies safer and easier to maintain. Next comes the hybrid inheritance. Hybrid inheritance means combining two or more forms of inheritance in a single problem. A common example combines hierarchical and multiple example. Consider a class A. From A, we derive two classes B and C. There is another class D which inherits both B and C. So the structure looks like a diamond. A is at the top, B and C at the middle, and D at the bottom. This creates what is known as the diamond problem. Why is it a problem? Because both B and C inherit from A. When D inherits from both B and C, D can potentially contain two copies of A base class subobject, one through B and another one through C. So now suppose A contains a member called data. The D tries to access the member. There is an ambiguity. Which copy of A's data should be used? To solve this problem, C++ uses the concept called virtual base classes. We declare B and C to inherit from A using virtual inheritance. Conceptually, B inherits virtually from A, C inherits virtually from A. Then D inherits from both B and C. So the virtual inheritance mechanism ensures that only one shared copy of A exists in the final object D. This resolves the ambiguity associated with the diamond structure. So here is the overall recap of the session. We gone through various types of inheritance like single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance in detail. Thanks for watching. Thank you.